The C-5 Galaxy didn't just carry cargo, it swallowed tanks whole. Doors opened from both ends, engines fell off mid-flight, and one plane flew with a cracked wing for years. These are 20 weird facts about the C-5 Galaxy, and the bonus? Let's just say this monster was so big, even the Air Force said it was impossible. Strap in, this flight's about to get heavy. The C-5 Galaxy lands on 28 wheels spread across multiple landing gear legs. That's more wheels than 5 cars combined, rolling down the highway together. The main landing gear has 24 wheels arranged in 4 sets of 6 wheels each. The nose gear has 4 wheels to handle the weight of the massive front section. All those wheels spread out the incredible weight so the plane doesn't crack the runway. A fully loaded C-5 weighs 840,000 pounds ready for takeoff. That's 420 tons of metal, fuel, cargo, and crew pressing down on the pavement. Without all those wheels, the plane would sink into the concrete like a knife through butter. Each tire is specially designed to handle extreme weight and high speeds during landing. The tires cost thousands of dollars each and need replacement after a certain number of landings. Changing all 28 tires takes a full maintenance crew working for hours to complete the job. The C-5 Galaxy's wingspan stretches 222 feet and 9 inches from tip to tip. That's almost as wide as a football field is long from goal line to goal line. The wings are so massive they create enormous lift to keep 840,000 pounds in the air. Each wing is so big that maintenance crews can walk inside them during inspections and repairs. The wings hold thousands of gallons of fuel in multiple tanks built into the structure. High-lift devices on the wings help the plane take off and land on shorter runways. The wings flex and bend during flight, moving up and down several feet during turbulence. Engineers designed them to flex on purpose because rigid wings would snap under stress. From the ground, the plane looks like a flying building with wings attached to the sides. When it flies overhead, the shadow covers entire neighborhoods in darkness for several seconds. The C-5 Galaxy entered service in 1970 during the height of the Vietnam War. The Air Force desperately needed it to move massive amounts of supplies and equipment to Southeast Asia. The plane flew thousands of missions carrying everything from ammunition to bulldozers across the Pacific Ocean. One C-5 could do the work of several smaller cargo planes, saving time and money. During Operation Baby Lift in April 1975, a C-5 crashed shortly after takeoff from Saigon, killing 138 people. The plane was evacuating orphans from Vietnam as the war ended and North Vietnamese forces closed in. Despite the tragedy, other C-5s continued flying, eventually evacuating over 2,000 orphans to safety in America. The plane became famous for its ability to carry huge loads directly into combat zones. Soldiers nicknamed it Fred, which stood for Fantastic Ridiculous Economic Disaster because of maintenance problems. But the plane proved itself invaluable and flew missions in every conflict since Vietnam, including Iraq and Afghanistan. The C-5 Galaxy carries the president's armored limousines and motorcade vehicles wherever he travels around the world. The presidential limousine weighs over 20,000 pounds because of all the armor and security equipment. The Secret Service loads multiple vehicles, including backup limos, SUVs, and communication trucks into one C-5. Everything the president needs to travel safely on the ground flies ahead in the Galaxy. The planes arrive at the destination days before the president to set up security. Ground crews unload the vehicles and drive them to staging areas near the airport. When the president lands in Air Force One, his entire motorcade is ready and waiting. The C-5 has carried presidential motorcades to every continent except Antarctica over the decades. This capability means the president can travel anywhere with the same security as in Washington, D.C. The planes fly with military fighter escorts when carrying such important and valuable cargo internationally. Very few hangars in the world are big enough to fit a C-5 Galaxy completely inside. The plane is so tall, long, and wide that most airport hangars can't accommodate its massive size. The tail stands 65 feet high, which is taller than a 6-story building reaching toward the sky. The plane is 247 feet long from nose to tail, almost as long as a city block. The Air Force had to build special giant hangars at bases where C-5s are stationed permanently. These hangars cost hundreds of millions of dollars and took years to construct and complete. Some hangars can fit 2 C-5s side by side with room for mechanics to work. The hangar doors are engineering marvels themselves, weighing hundreds of tons but opening smoothly. When a C-5 needs major maintenance or painting, it goes into these cathedral-sized buildings. 4 foreign countries often can't service C-5s because their hangars are too small for the plane. When the C-5 Galaxy first flew on June 30th, 1968, it became the largest aircraft in the entire Western world. Nothing else even came close to its massive size and cargo capacity. The Soviet Union had bigger planes, but America had never built anything this enormous before in history. Lockheed Martin designed it to carry absolutely anything the military needed anywhere on Earth. The plane was so big that engineers weren't sure it would actually fly when they finished building it. Test pilots were nervous on the first flight because the math said it should work, but nobody had ever tried flying something this huge. The wingspan stretched 222 feet from tip to tip, longer than the Wright brothers' entire first flight at Kitty Hawk in 1903. When it rolled out of the factory, workers and their families came just to stare at the incredible machine. Generals from the Pentagon flew out to see if the rumors about its size were actually true. The C-5 Galaxy can swallow 2 M1 Abrams tanks whole inside its cargo bay at the same time. Each tank weighs 70 tons, and the plane just eats them for breakfast without breaking a sweat. The cargo bay is 121 feet long, 19 feet wide, and 13.5 feet tall inside. That's bigger than most people's entire houses from front to back. You could fit 6 Greyhound buses inside, parked end to end with room to spare. The plane can also carry 36 standard military cargo pallets loaded with supplies, weapons, or equipment. Loading a tank takes only 15 minutes using special ramps that fold down from the plane. Soldiers drive the tank straight in, chain them down tight, and the plane takes off. The C-5 has carried everything from helicopters to bridge sections to presidential limousines across oceans. Nothing is too big or too heavy for this flying warehouse to handle during military operations. The C-5 Galaxy has giant doors that open at both the front nose and the back tail simultaneously. This means you can drive vehicles straight through the plane from one end to the other without turning around. The nose opens upward like a giant mouth tilting toward the sky. The tail opens like a massive drawbridge lowering to the ground. Cargo crews can load from both ends at the exact same time to save precious hours. This brilliant design cut loading time in half compared to other military cargo planes. During the Vietnam War, this feature saved countless hours when speed meant saving lives. Ground crews became experts at loading tanks in the back while loading pallets in the front simultaneously. The doors are so perfectly engineered that they seal tight enough to pressurize the cabin at high altitude. Each door weighs several tons but opens smoothly with hydraulic systems, powerful enough to lift cars. The heaviest single piece of cargo ever carried by a C-5 Galaxy was a massive power plant generator. The generator weighed 190,000 pounds, which is 95 tons of solid metal and machinery. It barely fit inside the cargo bay with just inches of clearance on all sides. Engineers spent weeks planning exactly how to load, secure, and balance the monster generator inside. The C-5 flew the generator from the United States to a remote location overseas. The plane needed a longer runway than usual because of the extreme weight on board. Pilots carefully calculated fuel loads to make sure the plane could take off safely. The generator was chained down with special heavy-duty straps rated for extreme forces. During the flight, engineers monitored the cargo constantly to ensure nothing shifted or moved. The successful mission proved the C-5 could carry absolutely anything anywhere when needed most. The C-5 Galaxy was famous for being incredibly difficult and expensive to maintain properly. Early models spent more time broken in hangars than flying in the sky on missions. The planes had serious problems with engines, landing gear, and flight control systems breaking constantly. Maintenance crews worked around the clock trying to keep the fleet flying for the military. At one point in the 1970s, only 60% of C-5s were ready to fly at any given time. The rest sat in hangars waiting for parts or repairs to be completed by frustrated mechanics. Each plane required thousands of hours of maintenance for every 100 hours of flight time. The Air Force spent billions of dollars upgrading systems to improve reliability over the decades. The C-5M Super Galaxy upgrade program fixed many problems and made the plane much more dependable. Modern C-5Ms are finally reliable enough to be ready for missions over 75% of the time now. The C-5 Galaxy can kneel down like a giant getting on its knees to pray. The landing gear has a special system that lowers the entire plane closer to the ground. This makes loading and unloading cargo much easier for ground crews working quickly. The plane can kneel down in the front, the back, or both ends at once. When it kneels, the cargo floor gets low enough that trucks can drive right in without steep ramps. This feature was revolutionary when it was first introduced in the late 1960s. Other cargo planes needed complicated equipment to load at the right height. The C-5 just kneels down and makes everything simpler and faster for everyone. Maintenance crews also use this feature to work on engines without tall ladders. The kneeling system uses the same hydraulics that control the landing gear during flight. It can kneel down in less than a minute once the plane is parked and ready. The C-5M Super Galaxy can fly over 5,500 miles without stopping to refuel anywhere. That's far enough to fly from New York City all the way to London, England non-stop. With a full load of 270,000 pounds of cargo, it can still fly 2,400 miles across oceans. The plane carries 51,250 gallons of fuel in its massive wing tanks when completely full. That's enough fuel to fill over 1,000 bathtubs to the brim with jet fuel. The engines burn through fuel incredibly fast, using thousands of gallons per hour during flight, but the plane can also refuel in mid-air from tanker planes to fly forever. Special boom operators on tanker planes connect a fuel hose while both planes fly at 300 mph. This capability means the C-5 can reach any spot on Earth without landing for fuel. During the Gulf War in 1991, C-5s flew non-stop missions for over 20 hours with mid-air refueling. Lockheed Martin only built 131 C-5 Galaxy planes total between 1968 and 1989. That's a tiny number compared to other military and commercial planes produced over decades. Building each plane took thousands of workers over a year to complete from start to finish. The planes were so expensive that Congress limited how many the Air Force could order. Each C-5 cost over $200 million in today's money when fully equipped and ready. The Air Force wanted more but couldn't afford them even though they needed the capability desperately. Production ended in 1989 when the last C-5B rolled out of the factory in Georgia. Today, 52 C-5M Super Galaxy planes remain in active service with the Air Force. The rest have been retired, scrapped, or sit in desert storage waiting for fate. These 52 planes do the work that would require hundreds of smaller cargo planes to accomplish. The C-5 Galaxy has a secret upper deck that can carry 75 fully equipped troops sitting in seats. Most people don't know there's a whole passenger section hidden above the massive cargo bay below. The troops sit upstairs while tanks, helicopters, or supplies ride in the cargo hold underneath their feet. This design lets the military move soldiers and their equipment together in one single flight. The upper deck has 73 regular passenger seats plus 2 seats for crew members. Soldiers can sleep, eat, or prepare for missions during the long flight across the world. The upper deck also has bathrooms, a small galley for heating food, and storage for personal gear. Some C-5s are configured to carry up to 270 troops if the cargo bay is empty. Emergency medical configurations can carry 36 stretcher patients plus 54 ambulatory patients plus medical staff. This flexibility makes the C-5 perfect for any mission the military needs anywhere on Earth. There's 28 miles of electrical wiring running through the C-5 Galaxy's walls, floors, and ceilings. That's enough wire to stretch from downtown Los Angeles almost to Disneyland without stopping. All that wiring controls hundreds of systems, keeping the plane flying safely through the sky. The wires connect flight controls, communications, navigation systems, cargo equipment, and engine monitors together. If you laid all the wires end to end, they'd stretch farther than a marathon race. Every single wire has a specific color code, so mechanics know exactly what it does. Installing all that wiring during construction takes months of careful work by skilled electricians. The wiring diagram for the C-5 is literally the size of a small book. Maintenance crews spend hours tracing wires when something breaks or stops working right. One loose connection anywhere in 28 miles of wire can cause serious problems during flight. In 1990, Air Force inspectors discovered cracks in the wings of many C-5 planes in the fleet. Some planes had been flying with cracked wings for years without anyone knowing about the problem. The cracks grew slowly over time from stress and the constant flexing during thousands of flights. Engineers immediately grounded part of the fleet until they figured out how serious the problem was. The Air Force launched a huge investigation that cost millions of dollars and took years to complete. They discovered the wings were wearing out faster than originally designed because of heavy use. Lockheed Martin had to redesign and replace wings on dozens of planes in a program costing billions. The new wings were stronger, lighter, and designed to last 30,000 more flight hours. Some planes got completely new wings, while others got reinforcement patches and careful monitoring. The wing crack scandal became one of the biggest maintenance issues in Air Force history. history. The C-5M Super Galaxy uses 4 General Electric CF6 ADC2 engines that each produce 50,000 pounds of thrust. Each engine alone is more powerful than all 4 engines on a World War II bomber combined. The engines are the same ones used on commercial Boeing 767 and Airbus A300 passenger planes. Each engine weighs 9,400 pounds, hanging under the wing on special pylons designed to absorb vibration. The engines can push the fully loaded plane to speeds over 500 miles per hour at altitude. They're so loud during takeoff that people 5 miles away can hear them roaring. Each engine costs over $10 million to purchase brand new from the factory. The Air Force keeps spare engines ready at major bases around the world for quick replacements. Changing an engine takes a trained crew about 24 hours of non-stop work to complete. The engines need complete overhauls every few thousand flight hours to maintain peak performance and safety. NASA used C-5 Galaxy planes to transport space shuttle parts and equipment around the country. The massive cargo bay was perfect for carrying rocket boosters, fuel tanks, and shuttle components safely. The plane flew parts from factories in California and Louisiana to Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Each space shuttle component was specially packed and secured inside the C-5's cargo hold carefully. The plane could carry parts too big or fragile to ship by truck or train across. NASA had special contracts with the Air Force to use C-5s for urgent shuttle program deliveries. When the Challenger disaster happened in 1986, C-5s carried recovery equipment to search teams. The plane also transported satellite equipment, space station modules, and scientific instruments for NASA missions. This partnership between NASA and the Air Force saved time and money for both agencies. The C-5's reliability made it the perfect choice for transporting irreplaceable space hardware worth millions of dollars. In 2006, a C-5 Galaxy had a terrifying nose gear malfunction during landing at Dover Air Force Base. The nose landing gear collapsed as soon as the plane touched down on the runway. The massive nose section crashed onto the pavement, shooting sparks everywhere as metal scraped concrete. The plane slid down the runway with the nose dragging on the ground for thousands of feet. Pilots fought to keep the plane straight and prevent it from veering off into the grass. All 17 people on board survived without serious injuries despite the violent crash landing. The plane suffered millions of dollars in damage to the nose, electronics, and structural components. Investigators spent months figuring out what caused the nose gear to fail so catastrophically. They discovered a broken part in the gear extension mechanism that should have been caught during inspection. The incident led to new inspection procedures for all C-5s to prevent similar failures in the future. Retired C-5 Galaxy planes end up at the boneyard at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona. The desert air is perfect for preserving old planes because there's almost no rain or humidity. Over a dozen retired C-5A models sit in neat rows waiting for their final fate. Some planes get stripped for parts to keep other C-5s flying a bit longer. Others sit untouched for years as a strategic reserve in case of emergency or war. The dry desert air prevents rust and corrosion that would destroy planes in humid climates. Maintenance crews visit the boneyard regularly to harvest valuable parts and components worth thousands. Some planes have been sitting in the desert for over 20 years, slowly baking in the sun. Eventually, most will be cut up and recycled for scrap metal when they're no longer needed. Walking through the boneyard feels like visiting a cemetery for giant sleeping metal birds. Air Force crews nicknamed the C-5 Galaxy Fred in the 1970s as a joke. Fred stood for Fantastic Ridiculous Economic Disaster because the plane kept breaking down constantly. Pilots and mechanics were frustrated with endless maintenance problems costing millions of dollars and wasted time. The nickname spread throughout the Air Force and became the plane's unofficial call sign on bases. Some crews painted Fred on their planes as a badge of honor despite the insult. Others preferred Fat Albert because of the plane's enormous size and bulky appearance from the ground. Despite the teasing nicknames, crews grew to love and respect the plane's incredible capabilities. The C-5 could do things no other plane could do, even if it was expensive and temperamental. Today's upgraded C-5M has earned back respect by being much more reliable and capable, but old-timers still call it Fred with a mixture of affection and painful memories. From kneeling like a giant to swallowing tanks whole, the C-5 Galaxy proved that bigger really is better when you need to move mountains. This monster changed military logistics forever and kept flying despite everyone saying it cost too much. If these facts made your jaw drop, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories about the machines that changed our world.